Hi, everyone. Hello and welcome again. This is Stephanie Stam. I'm the head of marketing over at SA International, and thanks so much for joining us today. Mark Rugen is going to be your Flexi certified trainer. He comes with over 20 years experience in the industry, and I'm sure many of you know him, love him. He's great and really knows his stuff. He's going to give you a great webinar today. If you were unable to attend ISA this year, this is your chance to see what's new with Flexi 11 with Cloud, and that includes the all-new Flexi subscriptions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark now. He'll work with you over the next 20 minutes, half an hour. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Stephanie. Just want to make sure you can hear me properly.
Yep, I hear you.
All right, perfect. Let me just get started here. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. We sure appreciate it very, very much. We are very happy to bring to you the demonstrations, actually better ones than we did at ISA, so you guys are really privileged here. We've got over 300 people attending, so you're in a very elite crowd, and I appreciate it so much. Well, let's talk a little bit about Flexi Cloud version. It's a very, very good thing that SAI has done. Basically, they're not really changing the overall functionality of Flexi itself. It's always been the best design software and out there and printing and so forth. But there's been some added features in the cloud version that make it kind of unique, and they're once again leading the industry in that direction. You'll probably see everybody else follow. So be a leader and join us today. All right, let's go over some of the things that are happening here. What happens is on the cloud version is on the right-hand side, you see all these additional icons and so forth. And by the way, for you guys that don't like seeing those, you can always turn them off like that. So have no worry. You can always hide those and, turn them on and off if you need that design space. But there's some unique things that happen there. First of all, on the right-hand side, what's nice is you can literally save your files, and it will actually track those for you on the cloud. So, my particular sign shop a few years ago went through a big tornado, and we lost all of our equipment and so forth and so on. And I had it backed up on a hard drive, but, it would have been even safer if it were stored on the cloud. So that's kind of one benefit of using this version. You also get a quotation system, which is kind of nice. So you can actually use that to create quotations for folks if you want to. It's sort of a light version of a full version, but it's still very, very handy to be able to do that with folks. And it's all right there in front of you. And that's the benefit of the cloud version. Also, just, in the past when we've been using Flexi for years and we're printing and we maybe go to a show and get a new printer or something like that, and we start worrying about profiles. How are we going to get the profiles for the printer? And we may have to figure out where to go, what website to go to and so forth. Well, other resources, you're going to find that if you're using the cloud version, you just click on printer profiles over here, and basically what that does is it takes you right to the SAI website where you can choose the make or model of printer that you have, and basically it's going to find all those profiles for you. So once again, this is just a time saver. It really is a way to create and find and save a lot of time in terms of finding things. And if you look at your shop, there's a lot of wasted time in there, finding designs, creating designs, finding profiles. There's a lot that goes on in the creation of signage and messaging, as you well know. And what they're doing here with the cloud is kind of compacting that into an area and saving you that time as well. There's a lot of other things that happen here, too. You can source out and go out to YouTube where they're posting a number of little training videos and helpful tips and tricks. That's also very helpful. You can click on their Facebook page and discuss issues or find other folks that have similar issues and start to, talk to them as well. So there's a lot of resources for you. What's also nice is down here under More, there's a section called the Guild, and I just want to go to that for a second and take a look. This is called the Sign Guild. It's really a cool place to go because it's a free membership. And whether or not you have the cloud, by the way, you can join this. It's just the signguild.org. And what's nice about this guild is when you join this guild, you get a number of very cool privileges, I guess you would say, or benefits that could come to you. One of them is being a member of Sign.com. You can sign up for that, and I'll show that to you in just a moment. But that's a cool thing. It's like a web storefront that the public uses to purchase signage, and believe it or not, it comes right to a message that's right inside of Flexi Sign. I'll show that to you in a second. You can also have your own web store, and again, instead of paying the hosting fees and all that kind of stuff, this is part of your membership in the Sign Guild. So you become, get your own web store and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of other privileges, including, if you're not in a franchise or not in a large buying group, you may be paying more than you have to for certain products and so forth. The Sign Guild is going to do its best to go out there and find those deals for you and give the group those kinds of discounts. So it's kind of a neat idea. There's well over 2,500 members. It's growing rapidly, and I highly encourage you to become a part of it. So what's one of the benefits? Well, look at mine. I'm just going to click on sign.com here. And basically what this does is it turns my right-hand side there of Flexi into an ordering desk. Basically, this is orders that have come in through sign.com. And it's showing over here that when they ordered it and what they're going to pay for that sign and so forth, and all the mechanics, all the the credit card processing, all the stuff behind it is taken care of by the SAI folks. All you've got to do is accept the job and produce the job, and once you accept it, it's yours. It's a great system to get more jobs too. And by the way, once you accept that job, that customer is yours. You can go visit them, and it's a lot of local customers. It's handled so that, the customer is given, shops that are in the guild, kind of like FDD florists, where they order flowers and they kind of send out the closest flower shop to deliver that and fulfill the order. This is the same kind of concept, but it's going to benefit you because once you get that customer, they belong to you, so that's kind of cool. And then mostly I want to show these bottom parts down here. This is kind of cool. These little buttons down here on the right are kind of neat. I'm gonna click on a couple of them. Let's just go to logo collection. Click on that. Again, a shortcut right to the logo collection. If you need logos for a particular sign or particular job, they've got them all here, and it's really nice to be able to get those. That's kind of a neat thing. And then you've got the design collection. Again, what happens here is you can order up templates. How often is it that you want to design a particular banner or something like that, and you want to make sure all the grommet holes are in the right spot, and you want it to make it look really cool to present to your customer. You've got all that available to you right here. Same thing with these flexible templates. I really like this. This is kind of a cool idea to give you an idea. If you look at this stuff here, what it does is it allows you to go in, and there's just dozens of different topics in here. And when you choose a template, imagine all the design time that you're going to save here. If it's just a big sale that's going on, you want to create a big sale sign. These are all editable files. They come as PDF files, and I'm going to show that to you really quickly here too. Let's just open up one of those. Okay, I'm going to close this one up. And let's open up a couple of these files here. Let's open up one of these flexible templates. By the way, these templates, when you get these, what happens is it's a PDF file, but you probably are familiar with this. Sometimes when you open PDF files, the fonts are missing or something happens and it doesn't look right. Well, these PDF files actually come with the fonts as well. So all the fonts that you need are in here. So when you right-click on that and just install the font, it's going to install it in your Windows, and guess what? Flexi's going to say, you got a new font available. Do you want to include it? And, of course, you do. So that's kind of cool with the Flexi Cloud as well. When you upload new fonts onto your Windows product, Flexi just says, okay, you want to use those, and you say yes, and now I've got the fonts. So let's open one of these templates to give you an idea of what it looks like. And basically, I got this right off of that placer. This is a little PDF, and you see how well it's laid out and so forth. Again, this is fully editable. These fonts up here are real fonts, so you can go into Flexi if you want to change this to whatever it is that you want to change it to, resize it, do whatever you need to do. You're in control of this particular graphic. So I think it's kind of cool. It's a way to get the design ahead of time so you don't have to do that part of it, make the changes you need or customize it for your customer, and then be able to output that to your printer. That's kind of a neat capability, I would think. Another good one, let's just go to, let's open a file again, and this time I'm just going to go to design, and, or excuse me, let's not go to that. Let's go to clip art for a minute. And again, vectors, sometimes you have just vectors that you need. For instance, you're just looking for a piece of clip art that's cuttable or printable, and you've got a great collection of those as well. So that's part of your membership in the guild and the ability to use the cloud and so forth. That's kind of a great feature. To do another one, which is kind of nice, I'm going to go back to that again and go to textures. I like this one a lot. This is just a couple of examples. Here's a texture that's included that you can get. And again, these all belong to you. Once you get these, they belong to you. And I can resize that. And here's what I like about that. What if I wanted to use that in a sign? I'm just going to type in some lettering. Type in some lettering really quick here. And I'm going to resize that just so you guys can see that nice and big. And I'm going to resize this a little bit. You make this any size you want. I've got that texture selected. Well, down here on the bottom of Flexi sign, you've got all these other kinds of, kind of patterns in here, but they're kind of funky, not the greatest in the world. But why not take a texture like this, just click on it, right-click on the swatch table down here on the bottom and say define that as a pattern. Once you do that, it puts it on the swatch table on the bottom. So now I can actually use that texture right within my graphics. Now, just think about all the time we save here. If I had to go out and look for this, I could certainly go to Google and I can do all those things. There's no doubt about it. But would it be high enough resolution to work in the prints that I need? Is it going to be tileable? Can I do this easily? This is really the value that we're talking about when it comes to working through the cloud, because the access to these things is so immediate. If it's a minor cost to even get some of these textures, it's all covered in the savings in labor and so forth. So really, really good capability there. So what we've shown in just a few minutes here so far is just the fact that the cloud version is really more than just access to things. It's really more of a way of changing your workflow, of getting the necessary files you need to keep your printer profiles up to date and do better signage. It's a way of getting the help that you're looking for. It's a way of becoming part of a larger crowd of people that can use the buying power that was in the past maybe just a part of being a franchise or something like that. You're going to be able to have those capabilities, and it's access to these design capabilities. That's all part of it. And by the way, on the bottom, you see this mobile app down here. I put that on my iPhone or on your Android, and guess what? You can actually track what's happening back at the office. You can see what files are being produced. You can actually access all of that information. That's kind of cool as well. So that's just sort of the cloud part of this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and reduce that. As I mentioned before, Flexi itself is great, probably one of the greatest inventions or creations that design people have ever made. What it does is it combines so many different things. I wanted to show you a couple of things that I think you would appreciate about this as well. And then as we near the end of the presentation, I want to talk about how you can become involved with the latest version of FlexiSign. Because I know some of you out there, with so many online right now, I know some of you are probably on version, gosh, you could be on version 6 or 8 or 10 or something like that, and you may be asking, why should I become part of this? Now I'm going to explain how you can become part of the Flexi Cloud movement with very little money. And it's going to be a very interesting discussion here. But first of all, let me show you a couple of things here to just kind of do some teaching, because that's what I do for a living, and I love teaching. A couple of things you may not know in FlexiSign. I don't know if you knew this or not, but in the edit menu up here, there's this thing called object linking. I think this is a really cool thing, by the way. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually talk about this. You know, a lot of folks use Photoshop and Illustrator and all that. That's cool. And so you create something in Photoshop or Illustrator, and then you save it, or, you know, then you have to open it in Flexi, and you're transferring files back and forth. I don't know if you knew you could do this, but I'm going to actually create a new Photoshop file from within FlexiSign. What I've actually asked Flexi to do is, and again, I asked Flexi to do this, open up a Photoshop blank sheet for me, and then I'm going to do some creating in here, okay? So let's just say we do something like this, all right? I'm just going to put a little file in there like that. Maybe I'm going to crop it, you know, down. I'm designing in Photoshop now, okay? I want you guys to pay attention here. I'm designing in Photoshop, and I get my design the way I like it. And then I go back to File here, and watch what happens. It says Exit and Return to FlexiSign Pro. Now watch what this does. Click OK. Guess what? It just actually linked that file right into my Flexi program. Now, why is that important? Well, I didn't have to import, export, I have to do all that, and it's still linked back to Photoshop. So what's cool about this is I can use this in my design. You know, if I'm trying to design something, I can continue to design in FlexiSign. I continue to send this out to my printer through FlexiSign. But if I need to make a change to that graphic, guess what? I can just double-click on it, and it will start Photoshop again, because that's where it's linked to. And if I go back into that program, it's going to open up right in here, and I'm just going to do something simple. Let's take that. Let's take that particular graphic right there that we're looking at. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and rasterize that so we can do some editing real quick. All right, and let's just do some silly things on here, right? All right, there you go. So now I just made a change in Photoshop, right? Go back over here and return to Flexi, and guess what? It's updated back in Flexi. So I'm linking between the two programs instead of importing, exporting, and doing all that kind of hassle. And that is a really cool thing. It allows you to use many different programs. You can link it to Word. You can link it to anything that's out there, basically on your computer. And it's a cool way to do some editing. So I know some of you are probably pretty advanced users. You ought to fool around with that a little bit. It's found in the Edit menu, and it's called Inserting New Objects. And basically it allows you to see all the different things out here, you know, things like all the Microsoft products. So if you have charts, or if you have a PowerPoint slide you want to insert, or something like that, or if you just want to create something new, you can do that as well. I thought that was kind of a cool feature, and I really love showing that. Let's close that one up, and let's start a new file here, and we're also going to show you a couple of other things. Imagine, I'm going to go ahead and, in fact, I'll just open a file here. Imagine if you had an image that was like this one, and once again, you know, it's an image that maybe is got a little, you know, exposure problem, or, you know, maybe it's got a cast to it, whatever. I mean, we get a lot of images like this through many resources, photographs, and otherwise. And, you know, a lot of you I know will say, well, I'll just go to maybe Photoshop to fix this. And that's cool. If you want to do that, that's fine. But you know what? There are great things that Flexi comes with that are built in. But just like Photoshop, Flexi allows you to add additional features through the Adobe Filters capability. These filters are some of the filters that you would probably use with Photoshop. And it allows you to add even greater capability to your Flexi sign. So for instance, one of the filters I'm going to show you right now that's absolutely free is called Smart Curve. So you can look for that on Google if you'd like. But this is what it does. It allows me to turn on a feature in Flexi that's a lot like the curves feature in Photoshop. But see, I don't have to go to Photoshop. And a lot of folks are kind of misled in that they think, you know, well, I have to do this in Photoshop. I have to do this in Photoshop. And I really don't have to do that. So what I can do within this program is I can use this kind of like Photoshop. Now, this is a great feature. On the bottom over here, it kind of shows you the way the colors are just unskewed or not in harmony. If that was all gray down there, that would be a nice, perfect graphic. So let's see if we can get close to that. I'm going to use the eyedroppers and sample the black point, and then I'm going to use the white to sample her dress, which should be a white point. You can see how the image is improving, and then maybe a neutral one. And look at the histogram down here, right? So I'm going to sample the sidewalk for a gray point. See how it's much more neutral? And you can see the graphics. So I click OK on here, and guess what? I've taken an image that was literally in very dire shape, and I have changed that into something that is now color neutral. That's one of the benefits of adding these Adobe plugins to FlexiSign. And I would say right now they're probably 95% compatible. There are some plugins that do real funky things with Photoshop that, FlexiSign's not going to be compatible with, but that rarely happens. Most of these are very, very compatible within the product itself. The other reason you might use a plugin, and I'm going to type in just some lettering like this and resize it. If you wanted to apply some of these special features, like soft shadows and bevels and so forth to lettering in FlexiSign, the difficulty is that because Flexi works with both bitmaps and vectors, if you have a vector piece of artwork and you wanted to apply these filters, it's just they're not going to work. So what you want to do when you want to do like bevels and so forth is find you a nice plugin, and I'm going to show you one, and then take your lettering like this, go to the bitmap menu, and rasterize it. That's the opposite of vectorizing. So I'm changing my vector artwork into a bitmap. And you probably want to use a pretty good resolution and add a little bit of margin around the edges. That's what this does. And click OK. And basically what that does is that has now changed that graphic into a bitmap. Now I can use the bitmap editing tools, and I'm going to use the magic wand and just select each of the letters. So I selected the letter B, and holding my Shift key down, I'm just going to click on all the other letters here. So I've selected just the word bevels, okay? You can use any font, like I said, you just rasterize it. And then my bitmap editing menu and my Adobe filters come alive. So I'm going to use one from Alien Skin called Eye Candy. And it's one of those plugins that I highly recommend to you that you add to Flexi. Very compatible. And basically, if I want to do like bevels and so forth, it's a great program for that. It allows me to kind of control the size of the bevel and the smoothness and all kinds of stuff. It's its own program. It's, I think it's like $99 or something out there in retail, but it's easily added into and can be used with FlexiSign, as you can see here. So I'm going to click OK on that. And you'll see what it does is it converts those letters into more of a bevel look. And that program, again, it does a lot of things. There's a lot of different ways you can use it. I'm going to actually add a little kind of a gradient shadow on the edge of that as well. That's why I added the little white space around the edges. And basically what we've got here, let me just blow that up. You can see I made some beveled letters with that little gradient background there, fading out. So it can be done within the program itself. Again, what you're looking at is over history here, and I've been working with these folks for almost 20 years. And I remember way back in the day when we were just in, green screens and it was, no color at all, and we went to Windows and, things just started progressing. And when you really look at a company like this who has spent the time to create the features that you're looking for, these are things that you folks have been asking for, and they've been able to either put them right into Flexi or allow you to put these additional features in using plugins. That's really a powerful, powerful thing. It's a great tool. By the way, that tool, just in case you guys missed it, that tool was called Eye Candy from Alien Skin. If you go to Google, I would highly advise you not to type in Eye Candy. You might not get the results you're looking for. So just Alien Skin is where it comes from, okay? So be sure and use that instead. But one more thing I wanted to show, because one of the things that has made Flexi so powerful over the years is its ability to vectorize and create images from really nasty artwork. Here's a piece of artwork that we have that came from the internet. The customer basically came to me and said, here's my artwork, and I really need to put this on my car, and it needs to be, about 4 foot tall and 3 foot wide or something like that. Well, you can tell this is a really bad piece of artwork. I mean, when you look at Design Central, this piece of artwork is only like 2.5 inches tall, and it's only 72 pixels per inch. So needless to say, the customer got this and just copied and pasted it and created like a little JPEG file or something. How do we handle this? Well, most of those other programs out there, Illustrator, Corel, some of those other programs, they can vectorize, but it takes a lot of sliders. And what happens is when you vectorize with those programs, and I'm going to force Flexi to emulate those other nasty programs in there. What happens with those programs is that it creates like not enough detail. I mean, when you vectorize this thing, you could get something that's either really bad like that, or even if you used it in the best settings, what could happen is you could end up with something that's a little better, but still not exactly what you want. When you vectorize a lot of these programs, they create like squares like that, and that's a lot of cleanup work for a sign shop, and that's just not something that we want to deal with. So instead, again, the best vectorizing routines in the world, there's a capability within Flexi to use what's called the Bezier. Now, a little tip for you folks. If you're using the icons over here, you're not going to see that icon Bezier over here. So if that's all you've been using, you've probably been missing it. So let's go up here to Bitmap, and we're going to choose Vectorize and Bezier. And guess what? Without even any sliders, no settings, and so forth, it's vectorized. And those two guys right there, the one on the left is the original artwork, and the one on the right is the vectorized artwork. And I just want to, I'll even zoom in on that for you to show you smooth curves and not like a billion points in there, right? Because, you see, the folks that designed this originally, and this is what I'm talking about when it comes to SAI, the 20 years of, going in and looking at serious problems and workflows and trying to make things better. The program now is at its really apex. I mean, it's at that really high point where there's so many features and so many included features. The problem that we've had over the past few years is that, obviously with as small a group as the sign folks are, and with all the piracy and all that kind of stuff going on out there, if you wanted to get the pro version of this software at retail, you might pay several $1,000s for it. And that can hurt a shop's cash flow. If you got to put that out, and if you needed 2 or 3 copies, now that number grows pretty, a lot. So I'm happy to introduce to you that SAI has introduced a new way to obtain this very valuable program at a very reasonable cost, and that is through Flexi subscriptions. Now, you probably heard about Adobe going to a subscription basis, and basically what they did with their customers is, hey, they didn't give you a choice. They just said, hey, you know what? We're going to do subscriptions and deal with it, and here you go. You can't get anything else except subscriptions. So if you want to get a new version of Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop and so forth, you have to do a subscription, and they just don't give you any choice. Well, obviously, that's not the way we handle business here at SAI. What we did was we said, look, let's do subscriptions, but let's give these shops a choice. If you want to continue to upgrade your software with the full version, that sort of thing, you can continue to do that, okay? But if you go to subscription, you get a few things that are kind of cool. First of all, what's going to happen is you're going to actually see that the subscriptions are much, much better way to manage your cash flow in your business. So think about this, $49 a month for an annual commitment or $59 a month if you just pay month to month, and you can have the full Flexi Cloud Pro version. I mean, just think about that. So for $49 a month, $50 a month, you're getting the full Pro version. So let's say that you have a company where, you've been waiting on upgrades because you just didn't have the cash. You didn't have that several $100s to upgrade it. Well, now you can go to the subscription version if you wish, and you can get it for $50 a month, and you're all the way up to date. Well, let's say you have 3 or 4 copies that you need to upgrade. Again, the subscription version saves you a great deal of cash. You can use that cash flow now, your cash, for things like inks and medias and equipment. That's kind of the look here. Now, again, like I said, if you want to stick with the desktop version, you want to get the full version upgrade, you can continue to do that. So we're not forcing you into this. But it is a really cool thing. And then some of you may actually have Flexi Designer. You design in Flexi, and maybe you rip the file through a different rip or something like that. $19 a month for that. So you could get several copies if you needed for that particular software. So I think what I'd like to conclude with is just to say, my experience, there's a lot of folks that have made the commitment to go to subscription because they see the value in it and they want to save the money. I encourage you to take a good look at it. You'll be able to do this through your reseller. Just need to ask them about the subscription. You'll be able to get more information online. But there are so many different benefits. I mean, even things like, sending your work to VersaWorks or sending it to Onyx if that's what you prefer using. Or if, again, when you upgrade or go to the subscription, you get that full Flexi version, Flexi Pro version, you'll be able to send it directly through Flexi. And I think I showed you a few demonstrations here today that gave you that sense of, Flexi is much more than just a software for designing. It is a production-based software. It's compatible with other programs, and it is a wonderful product to have. Stephanie, do you have a few more words that you'd like to say to the group before we conclude?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. You never disappoint. Great webinar, and thank you so much to everyone for your time today. I will be sending out a follow-up email to all of you with some more information and a link to view the webinar, especially because I know we had some audio problems over the computer. I really apologize for that, but we'll be sending out the recording so that you can see exactly everything Mark did today on the webinar.